I've ordered a whole bunch of product to deck the.
Yeah, it's looking a bit scrappy, isn't it, everyone?
Yeah.
Anyway, the people that listen, you don't get to see it, but for the people that watch on YouTube, we'll have this dressed up next time.
Those drinks have been there for 3 years.
Yeah, drink them.
All expired.
I'll drink them.
No,
You don't know
they haven't
about
been
me.
there that long.
Jesus,
They last pretty long.
Yeah.
You're not sitting next to me if you're drinking those, man. I will not sit in an enclosed podcast room with you after you've drunk an expired Musashi shake.
I'll drink an expired shake and
What
eat a
about-
can of tuna.
What
Just to
about all
prove a
those
point.
samples we had to drink? It was just milk.
Oh yeah,
That's fun.
1.5 litre of protein jockey milk. Good for the guts.
Don't know what you're complaining about.
Yeah, it's Darren's daily routine.
Yeah. What are we talking about today?
Milk.
No, we're not. Milk or milk?
Milk.
Milk.
It's
That's
actually-
a pretty good Aussie accent. Do it again.
No, I can't do the double E.
Milk.
It's not even a rhetorical question now. It's like, what is today's podcast? Like, what the fuck is it? I don't understand.
Yeah,
Well-
just for everyone. Like we have discussions about what the topic's going to be for each podcast.
Yeah.
We don't understand this one, Darren. This one's on you.
Well,
But
so
should we summarize it by saying it's train hard versus train smart?
that's a shortcut. But
Okay.
basically, I stumbled across the Instagram clip
Oh, here we
about
go.
somebody saying,
How many hours a day are you on
So
Instagram,
hard
you
to
reckon?
watch.
Not much.
Not much?
Yeah.
His
about you?
Darren's algorithm is just like gym bros giving each other motivational advice.
Yeah.
Slapping each other in the face before they bench press.
Yeah,
And
just
what's your algorithm, Hal?
chicks?
How?
Basketball, I mean.
Basketball.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Female basketballs?
Huh? Yeah.
What about what's
bit
all
of- bit
this?
of Angel
What's
Reese,
all
bit
the
of
contra-
Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark. What's all
Yeah.
that? There's a lot of controversy about her at the moment. She's comes straight out of the college system into the WNBA
Yeah,
and performing all right, although her team's
she's
not
all
that
right.
great.
yeah. Well, it's like that's kind of how it works across basketball leagues. Is the better the team does, the lower their draft pick.
Right.
So the same as like Wembanyama, he's gone to one of the worst teams because the worse your team does, the better chance you have of getting a better draft pick.
Is that the way
So-
they keep it fairly even?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, that's all.
So she's gone to a half average team, whatever.
She's gone to a pretty average team, but they will get better. But
But her own teammates are not even passing her the ball and stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah. It's
What
weird.
is going
That's
on
not
there?
just her. That's a lot of like new players in the WNBA aren't
Yeah.
getting a lot of respect. And I
But
think
she's come in as a rookie and putting up like
she's not
same
even-
sort of numbers as...
She's not even the best rookie, but the
Oh,
thing
isn't
is
she?
that she's no. There are other girls. Who
Then
play
why is she so
better than
hyped
her.
up?
Yeah.
She's it's just who she is. It's her name, but she's drawing a crowd,
Is she?
which is what that league needs. Like
Yeah.
they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
league, they're going to be awesome to watch
Yeah.
in the next few years.
Really? That's
Yeah.
big for you to
Well,
say.
you know, the Matildas selling out a
100%.
Midweek ice cold school night over here.
Matildas, the NRLW Women's State of Origin was a sellout up at Newcastle in the pouring rain.
How about that game? That was
a
it
good game.
13-12?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about your
That was
your
better-
daughter
that was-
playing in
My
the?
daughter played in the curtain raiser game before it.
Yeah, that's
that
cool.
was fun.
Yeah, she did well.
She did good. She managed to score a try, made a stack of tackles.
Yeah, no,
Did
Yeah.
good.
that's the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back to the topic of
Back to
Train
women's
hard
sport.
versus train smart. What are you, Darren? Are you a smart trainer or a hard trainer?
Well, looks can be deceiving, but I'm actually a hard trainer.
Oh,
You know, is it better to be?
well, do you
smart-
have to be smart to be a smart trainer?
Well, is it better to be smarter than you look, or to look smarter than you are?
I think it's better to be smarter than you look.
Ah,
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So,
Yeah, I am. Oh, your laptop's died.
yeah, it's a bit of a philosophical podcast, let's say, because you know there's many opinions on whether to train hard or train smart.
It's a silly question. It's a stupid question. Can you put that back on?
Okay, one sec.
Oh, we've lost our thing.
I can. I'll just,
It's not a silly question. I actually, when I first heard Darren talking about it, I thought it was silly. But then I got thinking about it. I'm like, okay, because I'm a little bit older than you guys, right? So I've gone through my phase of training like an absolute, like what I would consider training hard and like
Yeah.
ridiculously hard early days when I was just training for like bodybuilding stuff, not so much sports. And as I've gotten older, my training's completely changed. I've had to become much smarter about how I approach my training, just from a recovery standpoint, from a
Yeah.
sport-specific standpoint. So is that sort of what you're saying here, or?
Exactly, but then on the other extreme is, you know, there's so many new tools to help you out nowadays. There's so much, you know, out there for performance, for recovery, for Even technique, even TikToks on how to, squat correctly. If you move your foot angle by, 2 degrees, it's gonna engage your glutes more or whatever, right? So,
but I don't respect the
Rather
question.
than just getting in under the bar and just ripping
so
in however it feels.
But the question deals in absolutes. It suggests that you can train hard or smart and not both and not neither.
Well, it doesn't necessarily. It can be. We're not saying you have to do one or the other. You
But
can train hard and smart.
but where's the balance lie, right? Only a Sith deals in absolutes. You knew that I was going.
I hate how much I like that reference.
Anyway, basically, like, I like to think of it as a pyramid. I always think of stuff as
You love a triangle, don't you?
hey, the Illuminati got to me when I was young.
You do a
but-
lot of triangle sets too, I'm guessing, hey?
Yeah, so this pyramid.
I'll have a triangle choke in jiu-jitsu.
We
I
can
got
think
you in one
about-
of those at that shoot
I
day.
hated that. Ross almost choked me out against my will. I gave him zero consent to do so.
Oh, damn, almost.
It was the most degrading choke too. It was a triangle choke where he's basically getting choked by my crutch,
Nice.
his head.
Yeah.
Anyway, carry on. You like to think of it like a triangle.
Yeah, so, there's potentially 5 things, right, that you can think of when it comes to training hard versus training smart. So
Well, should we use a hexagon then instead of a triangle?
that's a pentagon.
Oh, pentagon. Fucking what's a hex 6, isn't it?
Yeah.
You definitely don't train smart, do you?
I'm a moron.
All right. Speaking of morons, so the bottom of the pyramid is tradition, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you know nothing about science and you start training, you're just gonna, do what you saw on TV.
No,
or
nothing about science.
Yeah,
Right. So
you're
like
just gonna-
someone like Anthony Fauci. No, I'm kidding. I'm
Well,
kidding.
well,
Go, yeah.
we might have to censor this. We'll get pulled off YouTube. So yeah, tradition is whatever people bicep curls. The first thing you're gonna do in the gym, bicep curls, because that's what you've seen people do, right?
Yeah. Or I always do chest on a Monday.
Yeah,
Tradition.
yeah.
I
Of course.
do always do chest on a Monday. I love a Monday chest day.
Yeah,
You along with everyone else. Yep.
yeah. Next thing's authority. All right. So you look at the biggest guy in the gym. What is he doing? Just copy this guy, right?
Just taking steroids
Exactly.
and
Or,
training terribly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're watching a game of basketball.
You see Hal dunking on everyone.
Yeah, you're gonna try.
Yeah, everyone's going to try to be LeBron.
Try dropping 3-pointers from him every
yeah,
play.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not going to work, right? You're not Steph Curry. And then above authority is trial and error, right? So as you start to get a bit more experience, you kind of experiment with stuff. What works for you, what doesn't work for you. And then above that, when you kind of build a better understanding, is logic and reasoning, right? So,
Can I guess the last one?
yeah.
Experience.
No, the last one is the scientific method.
Oh, okay.
Right, so science kind of proves things in a bit more black and white.
How we describe this pyramid? This doesn't just speak to exercise.
Speaks to everything,
Yeah, what's it
essentially.
called? Is it just like the logic period, like pyramid?
The knowledge pyramid.
No, okay.
Right, so as you get more experienced, you probably can navigate through this pyramid a bit more.
You can be a bit more creative. You can understand what works best for you, what might work best for other people.
Exactly. So
Use an analogy. What's an exercise? What's a
okay, the perfect exercise is squats.
Yep.
right? Because it's pretty much the last exercise most people learn.
It is, yeah.
When you're training, because even though it should be the first.
Why do you think that is with squats? Do you reckon it's the so many different variations of body types and femur lengths and torso lengths and all that some people, like from day one, I just adapted to squatting with great form, very
Yeah.
deep and well, right?
It's-
Because of my structure. But I've got mates that have been training longer than me, taller guys. They've never been able to nail a squat, so
Yeah.
they revert to other exercises
It's
instead.
not a particularly glamorous exercise. It's not super fun to do when you start, and it's not like many guys, and I'm talking to the men here, walking into the gym saying, "I'm trying to build a fat ass."
Yeah.
Like that's why you see
the
more.
only reason I do it.
That's why I've seen your genes, man. That's why, in my experience, you see the younger guys, you see the guys who are less knowledgeable, who love jumping on the bench press, or like are doing a shoulder press or something, because they want to build that upper body mass.
Well,
Whereas
it's
there's not a lot of aesthetic appeal to building that ass as a
Or legs. A lot of the time it's covered in shorts and
Yeah. But
pants and
out of every exercise you can do in the gym, transfer to sports,
Yep.
squat squats are pretty much the highest, right? Like
Transfer to everything.
transfer to everything.
Powerlifting,
Powerlifting, jumping, sprinting,
bodybuilding, everything.
whatever you want to do, right?
So squat. So you've got your,
Yeah.
early age sort of young guys getting in the gym, just trying to put on as much weight as on the bar as possible.
Exactly. So
Not worrying so much
think,
about.
Think about this pyramid, right? So you start off tradition. Okay, it looks easy. I'm just gonna grab the bar. People just go up and down.
Yeah, I know how to stand up and down.
Yeah.
That's easy. Yeah.
And you go there and you're like, oh shit, actually, this is not that easy, right? My back's getting sore. I'm not even lifting much weight. Why is this bar alone feel so heavy? My shoulders hurt. I need a pad or whatever, like you go through all the problems. The next thing up is authority, where some guy sees you squatting. And he's like, hey, don't let your knees cave in like that when you're squatting,
Keep your chest up.
Keep your chest up. Slaps you on the ass and be like, you'll be right.
See, that's and I'm
While you're squatting, does he slap you on the
I'm
ass?
going to ignore that last comment, but that's a thin line as well. It's like it's the trade-off between I hate people who walk around the gym offering unwarranted advice, especially to people who actually know what they're doing.
Yeah.
That comes across as obnoxious. But on the other hand, there are always people who need advice but might be too timid or too shy to ask for it.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way to toe that line.
Well, I guess one authority can be the guy in the gym that helps you, or another authority can be your favorite YouTube influencer, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it could be a video instructional or something.
or a TikTok, right? We don't know. You don't know this person, whether they're right or wrong, how much they know. They just have some authority because they have big legs, let's say, right? And then
you've recognized them from the Musashi Podcast.
Yeah, right. So then the next thing up from there is trial and error, right? Okay, this guy told me, don't let your knees cave in. Actually, it's kind of helping me, when I'm squatting, I'm pushing my knees out. I'm getting a bit better form, right?
Or I'm playing around with my toe position to see where it doesn't, my knees don't cave in or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Experimenting with feet in, feet apart.
Exactly. And then once you experiment a bit more, you get a bit more understanding, then your logic comes into play, right? Like, okay, so if my foot angle changes, I can feel my glutes engaging a bit more. Maybe if I stick to this position, maybe if I change my shoes or put heels on.
Take my shoes off.
Or take my shoes off or something, right? Like, not high heels, but, like squatting shoes.
House squats and high
Yeah,
heels.
what's wrong with that?
Straight from his weekend gig. Yeah.
Anything that works for you. But, so then, you're kind of optimizing yourself, right? And then the scientific method, right? Like, okay, so actually the best way is to, have this periodized training program, looking
Don't
at...
squat every day. Don't squat.
Squat at this depth.
Yeah, squat at this depth.
This rep range.
Exactly.
Many times a week.
Yep.
Train hard. Max set.
Use some
Make the rack your fucking pet.
auto-regulation, rate of perceived exertion. We talked about that.
Very scientific approach.
We did. Yep.
So then, you get there, then often what happens is you get a bit of analysis paralysis, right? So then you start to think about
Too much information. Some of
little
it contradicts each other.
Exactly.
You might be overthinking it. You might not actually pay attention to.
Yeah.
You might not actually know which data set is actually making sense or even working. Or
and at the end of the day, once you get to a point like this, what might help you is just cranking on some good tunes and just going hard and lifting the weights because you already have this base understanding, right? So it's kind of a fine line between starting off trying to gain as much knowledge as possible, and once you you can never gain enough knowledge. You can never overflow the cup of knowledge, right?
Things are constantly evolving, especially in this industry as well. Like if I look at the last 20 years I've been in the industry, things have changed so much. Yeah. Exercise to exercise, techniques, supplementation, nutrition, it's all changed.
Yeah.
So you are constantly just collecting information and adapting. I think if you're talking about your pentagon or whatever it is, pyramid, I actually think the most important part for me, this is just my opinion, would be the your own journey, your trial and error.
Yeah.
Because that's where I would learn the most about how my body works and what I need. But I'm taking from other sides of that as well.
Agreed. You're doing your own research. You're getting advice from professionals.
And I might try, 10 different professionals' advice on how to set up my leg position for a squat.
Yeah.
None of them might work, but in that process, I go, I've found the ideal spot for me.
Mm-hmm.
But they all interact with each other, don't they?
But here's another one for you. What if you were to turn the pyramid upside down and start doing some research, right? Scientific method.
Well, that's what I would do.
Right.
Rather than just get in there and try and rip in without knowing anything.
If you go back and start again,
that's
to when
injury.
You first started training. The first piece of advice I give myself is just do some research.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you had the internet when you first started training.
That's a good point.
People didn't even train when I first started training.
You're a
Gyms weren't even a thing.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah,
You're just squatting bricks and trees you find on the streets.
So instead of
I did on my honeymoon actually in Fiji. I was on a remote island with nothing.
Yeah.
It wasn't even TV, nothing. And I found this old bit of PVC pipe with some bricks, and I made a bar out of it.
Jeez, I bet
That's how nuts I was.
I bet Alicia enjoyed your honeymoon. If
if I don't move, like things start to seize up on me. I'm like the bloody Tin Man. So I had to like do something.
Yeah, 100%.
Fair enough.
Always have to do something.
Yeah.
Gotta keep the blood flow going.
100%. I honestly feel like, if you go a week without like, I don't know, running or doing legs or some sort of exercise, you kind of feel like the muscles in your legs start to atrophy.
Well,
Sometimes I get that after like 2 days.
I think that's just the pump.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway.
Well, a lot of that is as DOMS disappears, like you feel like you're getting.
I don't do anything that warrants DOMs anymore.
You don't?
To be honest, yeah.
What, even out of you're constantly in season, aren't you?
100%, yeah. So it's all like plyometrics and like intervals and cardio.
Yeah.
So it's nothing that like I'm never doing a 3-rep squat that would result in DOMs.
Well, the 3-rep squat wouldn't result in DOMs anyway.
It's like more volume.
Whatever, hypertrophy.
But I guess it's June now, so you only have 2 more leg days before Christmas.
You've been waiting so long to say that, haven't you?
I know. But yeah, so anyway, what I was saying is, training hard versus training smart. People often start out training hard and then figure out the smarts later. But,
Why do you reckon that is?
That's kind of standard. Like you can just see, you see
ego lifting.
100%. Groups, but that's kind of how you start. You start as a teenager. You go into the gym after school
with a group of mates
with
generally.
Mates. Yeah,
and you're trying to outdo each other.
And you'll spend 3 hours just doing bicep curls and tricep pull downs.
And everybody tries to hit their 1 rep max on bench within 2 weeks of the first.
It's fucking annoying. You spend 60 minutes waiting for a bench press because 3 kids are taking turns.
But it's an evolution, right? As you become,
yeah.
It's the same with everything in life, though. You do things pretty recklessly when you're younger, and then as you accumulate more and more knowledge or information, you adapt and take on board what you want and what you don't want.
But I guess our advice is don't, forget about training hard, because sometimes you just get too smart.
No, apply all of those things that you learn, all the science approach and all the trial and error and everything, but then combine that with training fucking hard as well.
100%. We'll look at someone who plays sport who might, if they have no idea what they're doing, they're not training hard. They might just do upper body non-stop, bicep curls, bench press, whatever, thinking this will make me stronger, this will make me better at rugby potentially, but maybe not soccer, maybe not basketball. Whereas if you do a bit of research, you figure out what works for you, do a bit of some more functional movement. You're doing some
sport-specific
box
training.
jumps, some sledding, you're doing some calf raise, like some things that actually build strength and speed where you need it. As soon as you've got that locked down, then you train hard. Then you're doing the shit that fucking kills you, because that's actually going to help your sport.
Yeah.
How do you define training hard, though, Darren? Is it just sort of reckless abandonment of every other principle and just going, I'm going to put as much weight on this bar as possible? Or is it, I'm going to do 1,000 reps? I'm going to, what is it? What is training hard?
Sometimes it's just, pushing yourself, right, to your limits, mentally and physically. Like, we talked about we always used to talk about, there's like few elements to sports, right? Like there's the mental, the physical, and this technical or skill element. So it's kind of pushing the mental part so that you're pushing the physical part. Does that make sense?
Can you maintain that, though? Like, can you really maintain training to that level of intensity hard all the time? Because I know when I used to train like that, I definitely couldn't. I'd get burnt out all the time. Neuromuscular, like my...
That comes back to training smart, right? So having the balance of not overdoing it.
Yeah, I think you have to train smart these days. There's so much information out there these days that it's silly not to train smart. It's hard to know what's right and what's wrong. Yeah. That's where your trial and error comes into it for yourself, because you get 10 different people telling you 10 different ways to do a squat.
But yeah, start smart, but don't forget about hard. I think is the general.
Maybe phases of hard too. When you talk about hard, like build it. I'm all about like programming, right? So having a goal for a certain amount of time and sort of trying to work to that goal. You just can't just go balls to the wall constantly all year round, hard. There's got to be periods where you're backing off or doing a different type of training. Or
I guess on that point, maybe backing off on your training, but it's still important to expose yourself to stuff that's hard, like you do ice baths.
True.
Right?
There's other things that you can do outside of training that are hard.
Yeah, which isn't specifically
like for Hal, reading a book.
Hard.
Yeah,
reading. Reading's hard for him, or
impossible.
Can
Speaking.
you read yet? Can you read yet?
He's read the whole Dr. Seuss collection.
Am I going to have to?
No, you'll be right.
I'll give you
ChatGPT.
give you $1 million if you can read one page of a Harry Potter book.
Who said that?
Floyd Mayweather joke.
Oh, who said that? 50 Cent.
50 Cent.
That's right. Fuck hell.
Anyway, but yeah, so there's the other part of hard, which is equanimity, right? Which is getting adapted to being in hard situations. So what I like to do is, even though I lift heavy weights, the hardest thing I do every week is yoga, because that stuff is hard.
It is so hard. People underrate that so much. Yeah, do difficult things outside. It could be difficult recovery things.
Yeah. So, it's not...
You get into 100 degrees Celsius sauna for an hour and end up a sultana. That's pretty hard.
That's pretty hard, yeah.
Playing a semi-final while hungover. That's pretty hard.
Out of all the things I do...
not optimal. But
ice bath is the hardest by far.
How many ice baths have you done now? Probably hundreds?
I don't know. I do them every day.
So does
0
it
degrees.
get any easier?
No, it doesn't. It depends a lot on the day and the mindset that you're in. Some days I'm keen to get in it. And other days I'm like, this is going to be fucked. Yeah. And it is. It's usually, when you got a positive mindset about it, it's usually easier, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you talk yourself into, this is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, attitude.
What do you do that's hard, Hal? You got a pretty cushy, easy, soft life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I mean,
what do you do? The hardest thing you do is open up a 2-minute noodle packet.
Yeah.
I don't need to.
That's tough for you.
You stop screaming in the microphone. You're yelling at me.
Hang on.
I do lots of things that are hard. I train very hard a lot of the time. But I train with a certain variety that means I can do so. I do very few of the same exercises, more than once a week.
That sounds really hard.
Yeah.
You've convinced us. What's the hardest thing you do, Darren? Yoga?
Oh, nah. Just probably putting up with Hal.
Oh. That's up there on my list too.
Yeah, that's fair. Hey, try spending all the time with me. It's tough.
Yeah. But, so what about applications to sports like basketball, right? Like, sometimes going hard, like dunking on somebody is, worth more than 2 points.
No, but think about all the cardio and all the functional training that's required to be good at basketball. That shit is fucking tough. And I'm still of the idea that the highest level basketball athletes are the fittest people on earth.
Well, they're tall.
I reckon half the people in the NBA could dominate in any other sport if they had the skill set.
Marathon run.
On that physical
Marathon
level.
running.
I don't think so.
You think a top level NBA person would be great at a marathon?
I think.
Let's use LeBron James. How did he do a marathon?
No, he's too heavy. He's too heavy.
They're all too heavy. They're all 7 foot.
They're not all too heavy. Shea Gilchrist is one of the skinniest people in the world.
How much?
How much does he weigh?
Yeah.
I think he's like 100 kilos is probably about
100 kilos running a marathon.
Nah, no way.
You are kidding yourself.
He's like 6'7".
Exactly.
So skinny.
Last. He'll come last.
They won't even dominate soccer.
They're built for basketball,
I don't
mate.
agree.
They're built for basketball.
Regardless, that's a different question.
Messi is my height.
Super fit athlete.
Having a low
Super
center
fit
of gravity is
for
important
basketball.
for other sports.
No, regardless, I'm not. I think I'm fairly sure I'm right. I'm not arguing this
guess
point.
we'll never know.
No,
Because they're not going to dominate it.
What was the question?
We've had world's greatest athlete competitions here in Australia.
Yeah, okay, and it was
It definitely wasn't
Billy
a
Slater.
basketball player, you know.
Yeah, but we don't have the best basketball players here.
We do.
No, we don't.
Xavier Cooks is one of the best on the
He's
planet.
fucking elite, but we don't have all of the best of them.
No, I know.
Right.
He was an NBA player.
Yeah, what about jiu-jitsu? Going hard, obviously, is important.
Well, it's funny because the inexperienced guys in jiu-jitsu always go hard because they have to go hard because they don't have the technique to roll smart.
True.
So they have to make up for it with athleticism, strength, cardio, speed, power. Whereas us older, experienced jiu-jitsu guys, we don't need to use any of that. We use all technique and still defeat them. So in jiu-jitsu, the smarter jiu-jitsu guy always wins, always beats the guy that's going harder. So it doesn't apply in jiu-jitsu.
But if skills are equal, then going harder, will it win or will you?
If
will
skills
it be
are
detrimental?
if skills are equal, then generally the more athletic guy that goes harder will win.
I have a hypothesis,
Well, they will always win, actually. Yeah.
and that is that I think Duran chose this episode purely because he knows he'll get a good Miyamoto quote for it.
And
Actually,
we're at that point now. What do we got?
I've pre-selected a quote this week.
Have you?
Fucking dude.
Thank God for that. Well, why are you still going to the book?
I'm
Could
just
you-
pretending to read it, but okay.
just like me.
Okay.
He's pretending to read. What page is this on?
69.
Is it really?
Haha,
Yeah.
nice.
So you must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain. The most famous Musashi quote.
It is the most famous Musashi quote. It's so
So-
true.
That's called a book drop.
You could have been so much more specific, surely.
That's
No,
a
that's
quote.
a good one.
I know that's a quote, but that applies to anything. You could find something that's so much more specific.
No, there was
okay.
many paths to the.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Hal's
Yeah,
taking over.
that's like saying there are two choices to everything. How many times have we debated?
But that's
plant
what this
versus,
whole-
But there's
plant
on-
versus meat.
There's
or
only one top of the mountain.
cardio versus weightlifting. That's
I think we've used that quote before, if that's what you're saying.
We have, but it's applicable.
But yeah, don't always.
Do you choose the path of smart?
what does
Do you
that
choose
thing
the
mean?
path of hard? Oh, yes.
is that a letter?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm going to
pretending.
give you a quote,
Here we go.
right? This is probably the best quote that you've ever heard. It might not be applicable to today, but it's a good one. A short sword, and this is legit, a short sword can easily beat an extra long sword.
Love to hear that.
I'll leave that for you guys to interpret.
I'll
And
vouch for
on
that.
on that note, on that note, see you guys
Thank you
next
for joining
time.
us. Goodbye.
Bye.